thanks everybody for joining. I know we've been doing these Karura community calls just to keep everyone informed on the Karura launch over the past, I think it's been like 4 or 5 weeks now. As you've probably seen in the last day or so, we did start rolling out our LKSM product, but given that we're only in phase 1, we decided to take this week, kind of take a break from Karura topics and invite our friends from the Interlay team who is working on the Kintsugi Bitcoin bridge for Kusama to talk about more of, kind of just explain more around what they're building. And then of course, as the Kusama parachain auctions went live today, definitely a relevant topic for everyone to learn more about and consider supporting them. So next week we'll get back to Karura topics and talk through LKSM, as things should be pretty much fully launched on that with regards to like redemptions and unstaking being possible. But for now, I'm going to just hand it over to Dom and Greg from the Kintsugi team. And we'll probably try to stick to maybe 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what you guys want to cover. And once you're finished presenting, we can go ahead and also open it up to the crowd here. We've got about 70 people on right now, so there'll probably be some questions for you guys too if you're able to take those. So I'll just hand it over to you and get us started.
Awesome, thank you very much. Also, ton of thanks for having us and giving us the opportunity to kind of showcase and talk about Kintsugi. Maybe before I'll start, just a super quick intro. Like, I'm Dom. I'm one of the co-founders of Interlay, together with Alexei. Probably, if you're a little bit in the space, you've seen Alexei also tweet around and see him on Discord and or Telegram. And yeah, we started basically Interlay about 2 years ago from like a research-oriented approach. We wrote the Xclaim protocol together. I wrote like the first implementation, and the last 2 years have taken us to build this out on the substrate system, and now we're quite excited to be in the parachain auctions to bring Kintsugi to life. And then, yeah, Greg, maybe you can also quickly give an intro about yourself.
Yep. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Greg, one of the core developers on BTC. I've been with Interlay for over a year now, mostly on the Rust side, but I've had my hand in like a lot of different parts of the stack in order to kind of get the product rolled out. I'm super excited to finally launch on crowdloans, and I'm hoping that get some amazing contributions from the community, and I'm excited to see where the protocol grows to.
Cool. All right. I basically have kind of 2 points that I want to talk about. One, basically starting with like what's Kintsugi, what are we actually building, and then the second part, more about how we can integrate with Akala and specifically Karura on the Kusama network, and I think how it makes a lot of sense to work together. Right, so let's start off with what's Kintsugi. So Kintsugi is Interlay's or BTC's canary network. We want to be connected to Kusama, and the service we're offering is basically a wrapped Bitcoin. Now it's a very different wrapped Bitcoin to the ones you're used to. In essence, like how Akala basically and Karura offers anyone to just borrow a stable coin. In our protocol in Kintsugi, anybody can just lock collateral and be able to receive or lock their own Bitcoin. So anybody can just create this wrap token. So instead of you sending it to some other address that you're not controlling, you have the option to run your own vault, but also you can use any of the vault services. It's a completely decentralized system, and it's insured by collateral, essentially. So if anybody would ever steal your Bitcoin, you can actually claim back the collateral. Now we're using KSM as a collateral asset. That's, again, I guess quite similar to how you guys know how Karura works. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell the tech. And we basically believe that we want to bring this decentralized version of Bitcoin onto Polkadot and to Kusama. To allow anyone to just use their Bitcoin in a decentralized way. And as such, it's one of the very first, or the first bridge that actually does it that way. So there's a real technical innovation behind it. And I guess what most people are interested in, we just started the crowd loans. So we have like early bonuses in the first 3 days. So we are distributing out of the 10 million Kint, that's the governance token in Kintsugi, we are distributing 10% towards the crowd loan airdrop, and there's 5% bonus for the early for the first 3 days of the crowd loan, and there's a 5% bonus for referrals for both the referrer and the referred, and we also have like a success bonus scale. So the more KSMs locked, the more Kint tokens we're also going to drop. Maybe one interesting thing I think that is not so common in the other ones is we have like this power user bonus. So we're going to drop another 2% of the total supply of these Kint tokens to the power users during the first iteration of running the power chain. I'm super happy to take any questions around the crowd loans, but before I do that, I just want to briefly cover like the ways I see that we can be of help to Karura. And there's 2 ways really. One is our vaults stake collateral, and that collateral is going to be KSM. But what we want to do, and this is where Kusama is so great, like you can just experiment, we want to allow people to stake LKSM as collateral as well. So essentially you could be able to just lock your KSM, get LKSM on Karura, go over to the Kintsugi chain and use that as collateral, and to earn additionally on top of your LKSM and Kint. So these vaults, actually 30% of our governance token distribution will go to the vaults. So vaults can essentially make sure that they earn additionally on top of that. And I guess the other interesting angle how a Karura collaboration really works out well is using the wrapped Bitcoin as a collateral asset in Karura itself to draw AUSD, or KUSD in that case. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what we're about. I don't know how you communicate. Yeah, do you have questions?
Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Because I just
Yeah.
talked to Alexei just, I think on Friday, and learned a ton. And this concept was new to me, and I'm sure it's pretty new to a lot of the people on the call, just around like how your tech works and what these vaults are. Could you just maybe explain briefly and like as kind of simply or non-technically as you can, like the difference between what you guys have built with this trustless BTC bridge in comparison to what I think a lot of people may have heard of, which is like the WBTC or wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. Could you just explain how those are different and why this model with vaults and collateral is arguably more secure for users?
Yeah, great question, of course. So essentially what happens on the Ethereum world is you want to get your wrapped Bitcoin. And now what you're going to do in WBTC, you're going to essentially send a bunch of BitGo people your Bitcoin, and you kind of have to trust them that they will never run away with your Bitcoin. Now in Ethereum, that works really well, I think, for wrapped BTC. As you can see, like 89% of the percentages of wrapped Bitcoin is in WBTC actually, but that's likely also because there's not really an alternative. So there's like these semi-decentralized versions like TBTC or REN, but also there you can't really join these groups of people that actually hold the Bitcoin. Now in our system, anybody can just become a holder of Bitcoin, like a custodian. But the trick is that you have to provide collateral. So you need to over-collateralize to be able to accept Bitcoin. And this is what the vaults are doing. And it's great in 2 ways, because for the user, so if you want to actually wrap your own Bitcoin, you know that if a vault actually would run away, you have a countermeasure, right? You can actually get the collateral of this vault. We're using trustless proofs, essentially. We can basically prove that, okay, the vault has sent this Bitcoin transaction they just stole from you, so it's like insured, and then you can automatically claim back KSM collateral or whatever collateral asset we're going to add. And now for the vaults, it's also good to kind of do that because they can earn on their collateral.
Yeah. So could you walk us through what would happen if a vault did run away with someone's BTC, because if I'm depositing Bitcoin and the vault is using LKSM as their collateral, I probably wouldn't be interested in getting LKSM back for the BTC that I lost. I would rather get BTC back, right? So how does that work with that system?
Yeah, so the idea there is you so the process is essentially the system automatically recognizes that all the other vaults in the system can basically recognize that somebody stole it, and they would be able to flag it directly, and then you could slash the particular vault. Now, what you as a user or people that would basically arbitrage do is they would slash this particular vault, they would get liquidated, but they lose more collateral in USD terms than they actually stolen Bitcoin. So for example, let's say you steal like 1 Bitcoin, and then the collateral, the KSM collateral that will be slashed away from the vault will be the equivalent of 1.1 Bitcoin. So what you can do is basically you then take this 1.1 Bitcoin worth of KSM and you do an arbitrage trade. So you basically, you would take kind of Bitcoin again, you get out the KSM, and you, in the end, you made a profit in that arbitrage trade. And you as a user, as long as there's enough liquidity in the system, you should never have to really worry about that, because there's always other vaults that you can actually redeem with. So essentially, you as a user, as long as there's vaults in the system that operate as intended, you can always get Bitcoin out. And for a vault, it's not rational to steal Bitcoin because they would lose this over collateralized position.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah, Alexei used an interesting analogy, which was I think everyone knows USDT and USDC are kind of dollar-backed stablecoins, and then you've got DAI that's a more decentralized option. The comparison he gave in terms of just your solution at a high level was that you can think of Kintsugi or your Polkadot version InterBTC as kind of the DAI of wrapped Bitcoin. And then the other solutions like wrapped BTC is more of a USDT type of model.
That's a very good analogy, yes.
Yeah. One other thing, I think personally I'm interested in what it would look like to run a vault, and I think some people on the call would be as well. And I know it's pretty open, and really anyone can do that. The use case for these collaterals is interesting, especially with LKSM, because when you have LKSM, as many people will begin to realize with Karura, you can continue earning the 15 or so % staking returns on your KSM, but get this liquid version LKSM that you can do other things with. And Dom, what you're explaining is that people can use LKSM collateral to collateralize within their vault, and then be able to start contributing to the Kintsugi network and helping decentralize that and run a vault with the LKSM as collateral, in addition to other things like potentially ETH or KUSD or other collateral options. Could you explain maybe what it takes to run a vault, and then as a vault operator, what are you earning in terms of tokens? Because I know you guys have the KBTC and your Kint governance token. So how are those involved?
Yeah, that's a really good question. On the kind of a bit more technical side, maybe Greg, do you want to briefly cover how to run a vault, and then I can talk a little bit about like how you earn with a vault.
Yeah, that sounds good. So we have an open source Rust client using subXT and a JSON RPC framework to speak to a connected substrate node. What we have in the node particularly is we subscribe to a number of events regarding the collateralization rates. We have some sub protocols. So on the chain we have the notion of issue and redeems. So issuing is when you issue into BTC or KBTC, and redeem is when you burn those tokens for the Bitcoin equivalent, or failing that, as discussed, we could get the collateral, the over collateralized position instead. So what the Vault client does is it listens for primarily listens for redeem requests associated with its vault ID. So it's important also to note that each vault ID is associated with a particular collateral type. So when we'll launch with KSM. So most vaults will be backed explicitly by KSM. And as we expand that, different vault IDs will also correspond to different currency IDs, i.e. LKSM in the future. So when the vault subscribes to a redeem event, it will see that a user has requested to burn a number of tokens. It will read that event from on-chain. It will then coordinate with the Bitcoin daemon to transfer that Bitcoin to the user's designated address. And once that's done, it will wait for a sufficient number of confirmations on the Bitcoin side. So to be as secure as possible that the redeem has been processed, we typically wait around 6 blocks on mainnet, and then it will take that transaction inclusion proof and submit that on the parachain, effectively burning the into BTC from the user or the KBTC, and we also have some accounting that will get lowered there. The other important thing to note at the Vault client is that we maintain the collateralization levels. So we use trusted oracles in the system to adapt the exchange rate for a particular currency to Bitcoin, and that may fluctuate up and down. So it's entirely possible that a vault may under-collateralize, and they're automatically liquidated. And what the vault will do is it will monitor these exchange rate updates, and if it detects that the collateralization level has fallen too low, we allow some configuration in this. It will submit a transaction on-chain to increase the locked collateral up to some margin on input. And I think,
Yeah, I think the interesting part is that if you imagine like a MakerDAO vault, even a Karura KUSD position, essentially we're taking this a little bit off chain and we run this client that does all of these actions fully automatically. So like you can leave in some extra KSM, as Greg mentioned, to top up your position, and you can kind of configure it. So it's like if you want to use the term, it's a very advanced bot that does stuff for you, and you just basically need to run a Bitcoin node in this off-chain client, and it does all this stuff for you. And where it gets interesting, essentially, so when you run the Vault client, a Vault will earn in different currencies. So it will earn in KBTC, which the Vault can exchange for actual Bitcoin back via the regular redemption mechanism. So when users actually come onto Kintsugi, they will have to pay a issue fee and a redeem fee, so basically like a minting fee. And that will be distributed like similar to like a mining pool. It will be distributed among all vaults. And the second way that the vault is earning is via the Kint token. So we're going to distribute the Kint governance tokens primarily to the vaults. The vaults are really like the key community part in our system. So we want them to A, have a good earning opportunity, and B, to also take on governance role, like to kind of decide where the protocol should evolve. And then the thing that Dan basically said, and we initially talked about, is there's this third earning opportunity if you use a collateral asset that in itself is interest earning. So if you use LKSM, you as a Vault client can earn in 3 different assets, which is KBTC, Kint, and then in KSM itself, because your LKSM can be exchanged back for more KSM after some time. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Last thing I wanted to ask if you could explain is it's kind of difficult for people to, I think, wrap their head around all these different like token models. You've got some teams that are having 1 billion or 10 billion, 100 billion tokens. So it looks like they're giving out just like a huge amount of tokens for the crowd loan. When in reality, what matters is the percentage of their network that they're distributing for their crowd loan. So I wanted to ask if you could just explain kind of just in a simple way, just like the tokenomics of Kintsugi and how that plays into your crowd loan. Because I know maybe, I don't know what the latest is with your rewards. I know it was 3 or 3.5 or something for every 1 KSM. But just something to emphasize there is that your supply is much, much lower, so that you're actually still earning a good amount in terms of percentage of the network. So could you maybe just expand on that aspect?
Absolutely. So we're distributing 10% of our entire supply for the first 4 years to this first crowd loan. We have 10 million tokens in token, and 1 million will be distributed in this first crowd loan. Plus, if you are actually going to mint KBTC, or if you're running a vault, there's another 2% of the entire supply that we will distribute essentially among the community that started then minting KBTC and running vaults. Also interesting is that for the crowd loan, 30% of the crowd loan supply will be unlocked, and then the 70%, the rest of it, will be vested over the lease period. So you will get right now is 3.75 Kint. It's like the absolute minimum, but it will likely be higher because this assumes that this will likely be much higher because this assumes that we get 200,000 KSM in the crowd loan. But I don't estimate that winning a crowd loan in these auctions will actually require 200,000 KSM to be locked. Obviously, competition is pretty fierce for these crowd loans, but we'll see. And then also, if we're basically distributing additional tokens for like referrals. We're distributing additional tokens if you join early within the first 3 days, and we distribute additional tokens if we get certain amounts of KSM locked. And there's actually quite a lot of KSM that you can earn. Kint KSM.
Cool. If you guys are cool with it, we've got a few people that have kind of raised their hand for questions, and we can start taking those.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for picking me for asking a question, and I want to thank everyone who's here for talking about Kintsugi and what's coming to the platform and what you're proposing. So it's a very interesting project. I think has a lot of future to it. But the question I had is, when you lock up KSM in a vault, does that mean that Kintsugi then can use those tokens in governance action on the Kusama network itself, or are they locked externally and cannot be used for that purpose?
So if you lock up KSM in a vault, you cannot use it for governance voting on the Kusama relay chain. I think that's quite similar to how if you lock your KSM on other parachains, I think that's the same. You can't use it for governance on Kusama itself anymore, because it's like physically where it's reserved on this particular parachain. And
right, no, sorry, I think I need to clarify my question. I mean more if you lock it into a vault as part of how Kintsugi is functioning, right? Not for the loan itself or for auctions or anything along those lines, but can Kintsugi itself use those for governance in the place of the person who holds the original KSM, since it is the collateral asset in the vault?
Just so I get your question right, so you're asking basically, can you, if you lock KSM in a vault, can you use it in governance, but governance where, in Kusama or in the Kintsugi network?
No, I'm asking if Kintsugi, the protocol itself, meaning wherever it is that is collateralized, however it is that the vault is backing that particular asset so that you can mint LKSM, can that vault then use your locked KSM for governance on its behalf rather than your behalf, you being the primary provider and the vault being the one who would be using it in governance in your place?
Right. Okay. Let me clear two things up, because I think that makes it a lot easier. So basically, the LKSM part would come from the Karura chain, so we would only take that as like a collateral asset. And the vault, it's the vault's KSM or LKSM, that both of these could be collateral assets, and the vault basically owns these collateral assets. So they would be providing these assets. And with that, they are locked. And in Kintsugi itself, you get this Kint token, and the Kint token is the governance token. So the vault can use it, but it's like the vault's own assets. It's not that the vault would take on somebody else's assets. We do have something new in that direction that you can stake on vaults, but the vaults cannot do, they cannot basically take your money and then do governance decisions based on that and get you voting power.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add to you. You were asking about minting LKSM, and just to reiterate what Dom was saying, the minting of LKSM happens on Karura, so totally different parachain from Kintsugi. And then after you basically stake and lock your KSM on Karura, you get LKSM, and then you would do a cross-chain transfer over to Kintsugi in order to use that as collateral in the vault over there.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Yep. Good question.
Hey everybody. I just wanted to ask real quick while we got some big brains here, if anybody can actually give some sort of time as to when the more cross-chain functionality will actually occur and we will actually start being able to bring other assets in.
That's an excellent question. The timelines, developers or technical person's worst nightmare. Right, so everybody's working pretty hard to get XCM working. I think there's already for sure there's already XCM transfers working between the Kusama relay chain and Karura, for example. You can already get your KSM from Kusama chain to the Karura chain. As to when exactly we will have a parachain communication, that's maybe that's also a good question for Dan, because that's very parachain specific. But on the protocol level, XCM v1, like the next version of this cross-chain transfer within the Polkadot ecosystem, is definitely being forged right now, and it's going to release soon. So I'm hoping that, I don't know, maybe sometime after the second batch of parachain auctions is through, we're going to get that upgrade and then have all the cross-chain action within the Polkadot or Kusama ecosystem. And as to other assets from other chains, so, I mean, once we go live, we can bring in Bitcoin. That's one chain. And I think there's a couple other bridges being built to Ethereum as well. Can't really say anything about their timeline. Yeah, I think that from my side, the answer.
Yep, from our side, we're going to start seeing, at least in the short term, other parachains tokens being listed on Karura as pairs and LP pools. So that is happening. It's hard to say anything besides soon, but I would say it's definitely a matter of just days or maybe some weeks. So we'll get those going soon. And then the other part is just everyone's also just finishing up their launches. As you guys, since you're in this call, you probably have been following the Karura launch, and it didn't just happen overnight with the snap of your fingers. It takes some weeks, and it's a slow rollout process, just step by step. So every team has been experiencing that too. So I'm excited to start seeing, like for example, if Sushi's launching on Moon River, there's definitely going to be demand for LKSM and KUSD for different pairs on that DEX, and then on our side, getting more and more pairs listed on Karura Swap. And then when teams like Interlay start launching, then there's a lot of just like next level, even more interesting cross-chain integrations that can happen when we start doing like what we've been talking about today, getting LKSM used as collateral over on Kintsugi. There's a lot that's going to start happening. I mean, it's going to take some time, not too much time, but I can tell you by New Year's there's going to be a lot active and live on Kusama, and I'm hoping and praying that things will be starting on Polkadot as well. So yeah, just keep following along. It's going to be happening pretty quickly.
I'd just like to mention that we focused a bit on obviously using LKSM and some other collateral types in Kintsugi, but obviously one of the biggest advantages of Kintsugi and indeed into BTC will be that we have KBTC in Kusama, and that will obviously brings a lot of nice applications with it.
Yep, KBTC will definitely be used on Karura too as a collateral for minting KUSD, pending a governance approval, and then also, of course, there'll be I can imagine like a KBTC KUSD pair, like a Bitcoin stablecoin pair. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. We've got a couple more people on to ask questions. Jason, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for hosting this, and thanks for taking my question. Question relates to the ChainX SherpaX project and how Kintsugi and InterBTC relates to that, if at all. They seem to be serving similar functions, but from a high level, curious if you think both models are needed, or is your project competitive with the SherpaX ChainX platform? And are there key differences about your technology, your security that we should be aware of?
Yeah, to summarize it, basically, I'm not like I know ChainX's older model. I'm not exactly sure what they're building right now, but the older model was more close to what WebBTC is, with certain addresses controlling the Bitcoin keys. And if we go by that, you have these two main differences. In our system, users have collateral insurance, so if anything happens ever to their Bitcoin, they can be financially compensated basically in this collateral asset. And the second big differentiator is that it's like in our system, it's a network. Anybody can just run these vaults. Any vault has an earning opportunity in Kin tokens, in KBTC, and if we add LKSM, also KSM itself. And these are the main two differences between us and them.
So is it fair to say then that your platform is more decentralized and therefore more secure?
I would say so, yes. So our core tech is built on a paper that I wrote together with Alexei back in 2018 that proposed how to build decentralized Bitcoin bridges. And yeah, to the best of my knowledge, that's the most decentralized Bitcoin bridge that you can build right now.
Great. Thanks for those clarifications. Great project. Really excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. Javier?
Hi, guys. It's great to be here with you. I think you've done great so far. I just had a question about what BTC products we might be seeing later on in the pipeline. I know, for example, a few months back, Thorchain released its liquidity pool for BTC. That was, I believe, the highest yielding liquidity pool for BTC. And so how would the products that we will be seeing in Kusama pair up against high yielding pools like that?
Good question. Right. So I think what we can do is basically we can bring BTC to different DEX pools. And the maybe there's two ways to answer this. So one is KBTC as a Bitcoin representation. We mostly see that other parachains like Karura's parachain on Dan already talked about Moonriver a little bit and Sushi being deployed there, that this asset will just go to other parachains that specialize on trading and DeFi trading. And the second part of my answer is going to be under the hood, we have this Bitcoin relay. That means we have basically on our parachain, on the Kintsugi parachain, you can essentially do a lot of stuff and prove a lot of things about Bitcoin itself directly from within the Kintsugi chain. So you could imagine people building new products on top of that. So imagine a BitMEX or Deribit style options with direct Bitcoin settlement. That's definitely something that you can do in our chain, but you could do even more crazy stuff. You could do derivatives on Bitcoin mining difficulty because you have all that data available and just construct new products based on that. And I think that's something that Thorchain right now doesn't have. It doesn't offer that opportunity to actually do that.
Yeah, we actually have we've been looking into perhaps even integrating EVM into the Kintsugi chain, and we would then be able to expose some of this functionality through precompiles. So your Solidity contracts could call some of these primitives directly, which we think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we basically imagine the Kintsugi chain and then later on the InterBTC chain to be the one-stop shop for Bitcoin. Anything that's Bitcoin related, and potentially in the future also other chains that are very similar to Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash, these chains that require this vault setup to be basically coming in through this parachain and then bringing all this liquidity into the entire Kusama ecosystem.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, you guys mentioned some, the landscape of Ethereum-based BTC cross-chain bridges. Keep Network is semi-decentralized with their TBTC, and then Run BTC, of course, is semi-decentralized. Now, WBTC, they have, you kind of went over it, they call it the consortium of institutions, that kind of the third-party key holders and grantors. It sounds like, to me, you guys are really aiming to be truly trustless. You are architecturally approaching this very differently, but most people, I think, in BTC discussions always point out how WBTC still has the most total value locked, despite its trust profile. So I just wonder, what do you guys see in the future as all of these new flavors of BTC come to Kusama? Like, how do you plan to approach, I guess, not only leveraging your trust profile and educating on it as kind of a preferred strategy, but all these new users who maybe aren't that concerned about that?
Great question. And I want to revert a little bit back on what Dan earlier said in terms of this stablecoin analogy, where on Ethereum you have basically DAI and USDC/USDT as like the decentralized versus the centralized ones, where centralized solutions offer some sort of convenience. And I think it's a little bit similar to how Rep Bitcoin can work. I think there's place for both. There's people that accept the risk that you trust institutions with your Bitcoin. And I think decentralized solutions are absolutely fantastic if in the what-if case. So if anything goes wrong, then, well, you build a decentralized solution, so you have economic incentive that protect you against this what-if cases, whereas in the centralized versions, well, yeah, if USDC or Circle basically or Tether decides to block your address, there's really nothing that you can do. And I think that's the intention that we have, and that's also the idea to basically bring this as the very. That's why we want to win the parachain auctions right now. Is like we want to make sure to verify Bitcoin to be in the Kusama ecosystem, so we can get like early liquidity into the system and make this like the gold standard. And I think Kusama, it has the rebellious, chaotic vibe, and I think it deserves a really good decentralized Bitcoin.
Also, I just want to touch on a related note there. Having you mentioned WBTC, well, one of the interesting things I found with our kind of architecture is that you can kind of build WBTC on top of Kintsugi or InterBTC, right? Like we have these vaults which have like a particular identifier, so we can always correspond those to like a participant. In the future, it may be possible to link these entities to some off-chain account, perhaps through like some sort of decentralized identity setup. And you kind of get WBTC for free then, don't you? Because you can mint with a particular vault. If you know that, for example, BitGo is an operator of this vault and has this much collateral locked, you as a user might say, well, I want to mint my KBTC with that account.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe as a slight side note, I think all the other kind of decentralized attempts to bring Bitcoin to Ethereum, they kind of failed to find vaults running the service to make it profitable. So essentially, if you look at TBTC, you also have to lock up ETH collateral, but you're not earning keep tokens really. They do some drops, but they don't have an included reward scheme basically for their vaults, which makes it kind of people running this as kind of a.
Well, it seems like you're breaking up a little, Dominic, but I did hear a good portion of that. So I think that's what I'm trying to wrap my mind around too, is that these aren't just like one solution bridges. This is an entire ecosystem. You can have multiple flavors of trust profile operating vaults. That's super interesting to me. And how that's going to link into composability with all the different parachains, including Karura. I'm going to kick it over to some questions. We have a couple other people up here on stage.
Yeah, so I actually just have one quick question. In regards to the native token, does it have any other use cases other than governance? Thank you.
Great question. So at launch, no, it will be governance. It will eventually be used as gas as well. And we're testing this EVM for Bitcoin feature out as well. So likely you can use it as kind of a gas token there as well. but that's not set in stone yet.
And it's also used to incentivize vaults, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's used, so basically it's used to incentivize vaults, incentivize LPs, people bringing in Bitcoin. So the whole token is airdropped, like we're airdropping 70% of the entire token to the community, and then the rest after the 4 years is going to be distributed entirely to the community.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thank
about
you very
that.
much for the answer.
Cool. Well, this has been really helpful for me, and I think for everyone else. Learned a ton. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Dominic, Greg, do you guys want to make any additional comments, or if you have any links that you want people to go to, let me know. We've dropped the Kintsugi and Interlay website, as well as the Kintsugi tokenomics and crowd loans paper, and then the crowd loan participation website. Those are dropped in the community call whiteboard channel on the left. Anywhere else people should be following?
Like the one other link that I would add is our docs, so docs.interlay.io. There you'll find all the details, how the system works, like how the vaults work. We have a testnet up and running, like try out the system. Obviously, we'd be super happy if you contribute to our card loan, and even more so happy if you try out our product. Greg?
Yeah, and also if anyone wants to contribute code, that's also always welcome. Nothing else to add on my end.
Then the last thing for me to say is Dan and Robin, thanks a ton for hosting us. This has been a lot of fun. Glad to be
definitely. Here. This has been also recorded, so we're going to go ahead and probably get that edited real quick, and then we'll post it on YouTube, and I'll send it over to you guys to put on your channel as well. So, cool.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll talk to you next week.